Hi, Ryan. I'm very happy to have you here with me. And the hand is saying hi in the back. So maybe you can say hi as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's good to be here.
I had a few hands on my podcast already. This is one of the hardest things you can do in robotics. I mean, there's plenty of hard things you can do, but yeah, I saw your work and maybe you can give us a little intro.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Saavedra. I'm the CEO and founder of Alt-Bionics. Our mission is to revolutionize the world of robotic hands, specifically for amputees and humanoid robots. So we build hands for both. We have two separate lines. We have our prosthetics line for amputees and then a robotics line specifically developed for robotics. They are interchangeable, but kind of the beauty of what we do is that innovations in one sector, right? Innovations in robotics breed innovations and improvements in prosthetics and vice versa. And so there's beautiful cross-pollination of innovation and meaningful human impact. But that's effectively what we do, and happy to say we've successfully developed the world's most affordable bionic hand for amputees that is going to be available this month.
We talk about your product and your company and maybe some competitors that I have also interviewed in the past. But if you don't mind, I always like to go back in time and then ask, so how was it growing up and how did you grow up? So what kind of environment was that when you were younger? Were you surrounded by engineers? Was it something that was very familiar to you? Maybe you can dive a little bit into that.
Yeah, no engineers that I remember. But I guess my upbringing in terms of how I got into engineering was more focused around or more based around science fiction movies or video games mainly. So I actually played a game since as long as far back as I can remember called World of Warcraft, and there's a profession in that game called engineering. And I was always the engineer. I always wanted to make these cool little gadgets and like do these things. And that coupled with movies like Big Hero 6, Tomorrowland, TV shows like Altered Carbon, Halt and Catch Fire, like all of these kind of culminated in my journey to becoming an engineer. But traditional upbringing, at least for San Antonio, Texas, public school, wasn't always the best student, had a strong proclivity, or I guess, yeah, I guess you could say proclivity towards athletics and sports. I was in football. I loved track. It turned out I was very fast. I got all the way up to state for the 100-meter dash. My personal best was like a 10.34 100 meter and like um, close to being, 20s in the 200 meter. But that was, yeah, I didn't really have any interest in engineering at that time. It was more of just something that I knew was really cool. And then high school, or yeah, I graduated high school, went to university, and I didn't really know what to do. So I chose the degree of engineering, and then I remember being in like the what is it? There was like an intro class to where they were students on tour would go into this engineering room, and the professors were all there, and they would like to me it was basically trying to like scare us out of the profession, but they were like half of you in this room will fail and you will not become engineers. And I was like, whoa, like you should be trying to inspire me, not like scare me away. But yeah, that's kind of where the upbringing was. But I don't know if you want me to go into higher education now, but that's kind of, yeah.
Um, it's interesting that you say that we're trying to scare us away, right? Because it's now that you're building a product and you're selling now and you're working together with customers, you can say that there is some sort of transparency that you do need to bring to the table. Because otherwise, you will have people being very disappointed and making it not through, right? So if you say no, this is wonderful, it will be just a wonderful time, and then reality will hit you different, right? Versus you are being very transparent and say, look, this is going to be hard. Some of you will not make it, maybe half of you will not make it, but those who will make it, who will putting the effort and the work into it and understanding why they want to do it, they can do it. And then it will be a lot of fun because you will be able to work on projects that are very interested. So I think it has two sides to be, let's say, very transparent about these things. Um,
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. And everything that I've been through has brought me here. So I have no qualms with it all, but it's just looking back, that's kind of the
yeah.
funny part.
You said that the video game was inspiring you also somehow. And I really like this because I can remember it was a it was one of my guests, and he was mentioning that he had no person specifically around him, no father, no brother, cousin, or teacher that was really inspiring him to become a mechanical engineer. But he was listening to different kind of podcasts and watching YouTube videos, and so I do like the idea that it's not only all bad what's happening on social media, but there can be some inspiration happening through these kind of mediums, right? I mean, this is what I'm aiming at with this podcast as well. And you said that the video game somehow was inspiring you to become an engineer because you always choose the role of an engineer in that specific game, right? And so it's nice that some people are like really hating video games, and then now you hear it's not only good for your ability and your eye-hand coordination and different other things in your brain, but it's also can be inspiring because it brings you in touch with some things you normally wouldn't be come across.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
uh, leaving the or coming back to the higher education, you said that you didn't really know what you want to do. I hear a lot of times when people are writing me, or young students, or people are about to enter the university or already entered the university, there's so many things to choose from. There's, especially if you're interested in robotics, there's so many different fields. How do you know what you're going to do? How should I choose and not being regretting after 1 or 2 semesters? How was that for you?
It was extremely difficult. I failed out after a year and a half at college. Like they kicked me out. They were like, "Your GPA is like way too low." It was like a 2.0 or something. It was tremendously bad. But it's because there was so much, and I didn't really have guidance in high school telling me like, "This is a career, this is a degree plan for you, and like this is what you need to do." I just all around, I had some older friends, and they were all like, "Yeah, I'm just taking my basics right now. Like I'm figuring things out." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just take basics." And so I took all the intro courses. So I had no degree plan. I was just taking intro courses. Um, and so I think, so I guess I'll just go with the story. So I took intro courses, failed out, went to community college after about a 6 month break, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided on fire sciences. I wanted to be like a fire investigator or a firefighter. I just like working with my hands. I like the idea of helping people in need. And that was a cool career path for me. And so I went to a community college, San Antonio Community College. I was about a semester away from getting my associates and then going to fire science school. But I took an astronomy class. And that's kind of, not ironically, but I guess it, what's the word when something's like commonplace? It was my introduction to how the beauty of math could be applied in the real world. And so, corny. It was corny. Yeah, it was kind of corny. But this class really shaped the rest of my degree and the rest of my career path because I truly could see, like, oh, like now you're telling me I can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out the nearest distance or the distance of a nearby star. And to me, that's what made math interesting and what kind of sparked my interest in wanting to learn more. So I reapplied using my astronomy professor's letter of recommendation to get me back into UTSA. They accepted me back under an astrophysics degree. I really wanted to do astrophysics because that astronomy class was like, whoa. And a part of that degree was to take an intro to Java programming class. And so I took this class, and that is effectively the turning point of where I was like, wait, whoa, I can just say if, and then do this, or like while something's happening, a robot can do this, and I can program things. And that kind of broadened my mind or opened up my mind into the realities of like robotics really doesn't seem that hard. And so from there, I took an introduction to electrical engineering class because that was kind of the fit of Java into robotic and robotics controls. So I took that, fell in love with it, and the rest was effectively history. So my journey was, yeah, all over the place, and it kind of stemmed, like you said in the beginning, from there just being so much. And I think if I had to give advice, I'm not sure if you want that, but
I want.
it's yeah, explore like as much as you can. Like just do the things that interest you. Like those intro classes, I think are there for a reason, as mundane or like useless as they may seem initially. They provide not only a foundation for like being relevant in conversations and like history, literature, whatever, but also they get your toes wet in all of these different categories. And maybe you find something you like there. So that, yeah, that was my journey. And I think it all kind of happened the way it needed to happen. But those pressures were really tough coming out of college and like them expecting you to know what to do. And so, I mean, I didn't graduate college until I was like, I think 24 or 25. And so it's like, yeah, the journey was very compressed for me. But once I really got going, it took me about 4 years to graduate.
I think the magic that everything can be interesting, right? Uh, it just needs to be presented in a way that it catches your attention. And I think if we are able to teach, I mean, with AI now, maybe things will be a little bit different, but um, if we are able to spark this curiosity and make understand, as you said, math was not interesting for me, but here I am sitting in that class and somebody's telling me that I can actually use math for something that is interesting for me, and that brings you to the point where hard math, when it becomes hard, um, but you do need to do it to do the other things you want to do. So it gives you a reason to become good at it. I think this is definitely that something that people can draw from. So thanks for sharing. I do think this is helpful for a lot of people. That being chaotic and being overwhelmed is very normal. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, while you were at university, was there already the idea of doing something on your own afterwards?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So I said, if while you were still at university, was there a point where you thought, am I going to do something on my own? Because some people already know, if when I finish, I would like to work for this company or for that company. How was that for you?
Yeah, really bad. A poor GPA is almost impossible to recover from. So I think I graduated with like a 2.9, 2.89 maybe, in I think total, and then like a 3.1 in engineering, which like no one's going to accept you in an internship with that when all of your peers are like at 3.5s and above, some 4.0s, obviously. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that yeah, I guess I kind of expected to just go the traditional route, like attempt an internship that didn't work out, and then just start applying for things after I got to my bachelor's degree. But about the halfway point, so my sophomore year of college, I had a rock climbing injury. So I love rock climbing. Started that end of high school, went through it, and I'm still rock climbing today. So it's been about 12-ish, 13 years of rock climbing. And sophomore year, I was out climbing, slipped, caught all of my weight on one finger. I heard a pop. Needed to go to a doctor. They evaluated it as a like a third time partial tear of the pulley system that holds your tendon to your bone inside my ring finger, and they had to remove it basically for me to not have pain when I climbed. So we did that. The surgery was a success. It was somewhat experimental. Not many people have had this surgery, but because of that, the recovery process wasn't that great for me. For about 6 months, I couldn't actually use my hand. And this is really where the inspiration of this company came from. So
Mm.
during that 6 month time frame, I kind of experimented with the idea of like, well, what if I lost this finger? Like it really did not look great when I took those bandages off, and like I was worried I might lose it. And so I made a small mechanical finger out of like a cardboard Ziploc bag box, yarn, and a spare Arduino kit that I had laying around, and a flex sensor. So as I flexed this sensor, the mechanical finger would move proportionally. And so that was super interesting to me. And just like you said, how, inspiration or, yeah, you draw, your inspiration is more motivated by things you're interested in. That was this for my classes. So now I started looking into what does it take to build four fingers? What does it take for an amputee to control these things? And that through that research and pulling from my classes, I found out the high costs of advanced prosthetic devices. And that's where the mission to make them affordable began. So yeah, and then that story goes on, but I don't know how much you want from me on that, just off of your question.
I mean, um, it's always nice to have this kind of inspirational story that can be the base or the foundation of a product versus um, there's a lot of money in it, or I was working for a similar company, so I mean everything is valuable or valid, but having this kind of, let's as you said, like self-experience that formed the idea of, so this is it for me. I can't use my hand for 6 months. How is it for other people who are not as fortunate as I, still having my hand, still having all fingers? Um, but from that idea to make a real company, there's a long path. Were you alone in that journey in the beginning? Was that, maybe you can tell me a little bit about the initial spark for the company or the idea to turn the, or for the moment to turn the idea into reality?
Yeah, and I have an example of this, but so as I pulled more and more research from my classes or like information from my classes and professors about like how electromyography sensors work for amputees, be able to control these things, and mechanical design, like computer aided design using Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, I eventually wanted to build like a whole hand. And I wasn't a mechanical engineer by any means, so I found an open source design. And then by that time, I was in my final year of college. And we have this thing called senior design where you have a capstone project and you and three other team members will come up with this idea that's supposed to be innovative and then present it at a technology competition or symposium at my college, which was UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio. And so through a project or a decision matrix with my team, I pitched the idea of, hey, a bionic hand. We can add force sensors. We can add an AI algorithm into it. The mechanical design's already done. It's an open source design because we were electrical engineers. We had software and electrical. And I went out by a very thin margin. It was like a 50 points to 51 points towards mine versus some other project that one of my classmates pitched. But I eventually won out, or I ultimately won out, and the team agreed to build this hand, and we presented it. And this was actually that hand. So I still have it. I used my earnings we got second place at the technology competition, and we got $2,000 for it that we split. And so I used all my earnings to basically pay them back and like buy this out. Um, but you can see we have like force sensors embedded in the palm. So when the judges came up and like shook the hand, this is kind of the point at where they'd shake, and the hand would grip proportionally to their handshake. And so it's like trying to arm wrestle a bionic hand. It was kind of fun for them. And then we had an LED sensor that was from Adafruit on the back that proportionally mapped and showed those strength levels from the force sensors. So kind of
Mm,
like a stoplight, so red to yellow to green based on strength or
yeah.
backwards of that. And the main thing was that we implemented AI into it. So what that means is basically the typical control program for amputees is two sensors. And so you get open and close movements with that after you can navigate two grips. We put in six sensors. And so from that, I could actually navigate into any grip that I wanted without like returning to a home position. I could open and close the hand. And so I think it was a random forest that Evan used when he developed it, but basically a small training program we did that said like, close your hands softly, and then now close your two middle fingers softly. Now close them hard, now open hard. And after that, we had this fully functional AI enhanced bionic hand that we successfully presented, and news stations came and did stories on us. And it was all for $600. So $600 down from the most expensive alternative of like $200,000 was 99% cheaper. And those news stations that came and did stories on us eventually reached my friend Sarah Poston, who said, hey, my cousin, Army Ranger Ryan Davis, was involved in an IED explosion in Afghanistan and lost his arm above the elbow, his legs at various heights. Do you think he could use this hand? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like, absolutely. And so I met him about, I think, a week later at the local VA hospital, set this hand up, and all he wanted to do was flip his attending nurses off. And so he gave them all the bird, and the whole room was smiles and laughter. And then someone else in the room was there, and they turned to me and said, like, you've given Ryan a part of his life back. Like, what's next? And so this was the true inspiration for Alt-Bionics. The company was named that prior, but me wanting to go out and like abandon everything else and just go whole hog into this single company or like idea, that was the moment. And so went back to my team, told them what I wanted to do. They were graduating that semester. I still had one semester left. Said like, sorry, but effectively good luck. And 6 months later, founded the company as a sole proprietorship in I think May. So that's the origins of Alt-Bionics.
And is there any of the former team members that is a member now or colleague now?
No, so not officially. We have Evan, the AI engineer, is working on the background with me still, trying to kind of develop out an AI algorithm. They're a lot harder. We didn't go with AI for the final version just because there's a lot of FDA regulations over it. Our focus is on affordability, and so typically people who I guess the majority of people who use myoelectric hands only have one sensor or two sensors because those are the most affordable options. The more advanced options are much more expensive. And so we are working on it in the background, but we don't have it yet. Apart from that, no, the other two members went on and they're working awesome jobs, probably getting paid a lot more than what I get paid. But yeah, so Evan is still around, but I was the only one to kind of really go into this company.
So, and how old is the company now?
We turned 5 years old in about 3 months, or no, 2 months now. Yeah.
How
So,
how f- how f- how fast time flies by. Mm,
yeah.
sorry, today my throat is a little bit. Um, what I really like the idea is it's not a straight path, and it was not very clear from the beginning, but it seems like one event triggered the next one, triggered the next one, triggered the next one. And looking back, it's a nice story to tell. But I can imagine that throughout every single milestone, there was a lot of uncertainty, and throughout the steps, it seems like you gained a little bit more of momentum and confidence that you really would like to do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is kind of the thing. I'd never really thought that I was becoming an entrepreneur. Like it's just kind of just branded onto me. And I'll always tell this to anyone looking to build a company. It's like, I think you really need to have two things. And one is like just an immense passion and like interest in this specific thing. And then the other, I guess, kind of comes from that like relentless passion is the delusion that you're not going to fail. Because I mean, I could see this like plain as day from back in 2019. Like I understood what needed to be done and how we could do it. I just needed to find a team who could bring that to life. But it wasn't, it is like you said, like one thing just led to another of things that I needed to do to make it a reality. It wasn't like I want to be an entrepreneur and make this product for the fun of it or for the sake of it. It was like this is at every step of the company, like I have a vision forward and the passion has always and likely will always remain.
How big is the team now?
We are about 7 members total. Five of us are here and then, no, eight, sorry. Five of us are here and then three are across the country. So our CTO is in Alaska, our CFO is in New York, and our COO is in Missouri. And then we are centralized in Texas. Our headquarters are in San Antonio, Texas, and that's where we have the majority of our team. So we have two electrical engineers split between prosthetics and robotics, and two mechanical engineers split between, or no, they handle both. They design both robotics and prosthetics and feature designs, as well as one biomedical engineer who handles all regulatory affairs and some additional CAD work, and then me kind of fronting the company here.
This is awesome. um, so you 5 years ago there was no humanoid hype. There was no,
No.
there was no, you can control a hand with AI, you can control a robot with AI. There were no Unitary videos, no figure videos, no Tesla Optimus videos. There was none of this. But now, eventually, something that started as help for people with a missing hand. And we can go later on if you are thinking about of expanding the business because there's other limbs, right, that people can lose. But now coming back to robotics, now we have this humanoid hype for a few years going on, and it seems every year it's becoming bigger and bigger. So how was that for you when you first saw those kind of videos?
Yeah, the only ones I remembered seeing were the Atlas from Boston
Mm.
Dynamics. Those were obviously really cool, and it was like I didn't make the relation, and I still hadn't until the company came to us and was like, "Hey, hands for humanoids," and I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." Um, but yeah, it was really cool, kind of seeing the first videos come out of like humanoids and the application of hands. And what was most interesting to me was finding out once all those videos started surfacing and people started reaching out to us was everyone chose to build the hand last because I guess they just didn't realize how complex the hand actually was, and it was an afterthought. I mean, arguably ambulation is more important, right? Walking is more important for robots initially, especially if you're replicating the humanoid factor or form factor, or the human form factor. But yeah, I was just incredibly, no one chose to build hands first, and everyone's trying to catch up now, and it's cool to see. And it's also like a really good time to be making hands for not just amputees, but also humanoid robots.
Um, I think there's two different kind of quotes. They're addressing different things for different reasons. But I know at least three or four companies are focusing now on hands. Are you going with the focus on the customer, something that Bezos says, or I'm focused on you need to be obsessed with your competition. So what are you guys doing? What is interesting for you?
Yeah, so we obviously stay abreast of everything that's going on in the hand industry, as it relates to hands, or if there's any inkling of a relationship to hands, like we try to stay aware of it. And the route that everyone's going is kind of like high degree of freedom. Like you want to be able to like splay your fingers like this and do interesting motions like this. Um, but those designs don't like they're good. They'll give you high degrees of freedom, but there are requirements. Like even our own anatomical structure dictates that every motor that drives our fingers is actually embedded in your forearm. And so when we build hands, we have always, and we will likely still always continue to try to isolate everything and condense everything within the hand. And so like now we have 6 degrees of freedom and you can see four of our motors here inside the hand. So one motor per finger and then one for the thumb rotation, one for the thumb flexion, and designs already to implement 14 degrees of freedom into our hand for both prosthetics and robotics. And the biggest thing that we think about, it's funny. Your question was like, do you think is it more customer focused or like business focused? And it's kind of both. We build hands and then we want to optimize them as much as we can to serve not only humans, but the robotics industry that will also need hands. And the first step in doing that is making sure that when fingers break, just as mine did, that I'm not down for 6 months and like waiting for a repair or replacement or waiting to heal. And so what we did was we implemented a repair system integrated into the hand that is, you remove 5 screws from the back plate. You can take off the dorsal plate as I just did. And then you can pop up one of these latches, lift the connector, and individual finger modules are removable. And the process is just as simple and as quick as you just saw. It takes about 3 minutes, or we had an amputee do it, a unilateral amputee do it, so he's only missing one hand in about 3 minutes. And the benefit of this is that he can get back to work immediately. And it was a simulated repair. The fingers didn't break. We designed them to be robust, but this is the benefit for not only amputees and those living with limb loss, but for humanoids as well. This means the robot, if this ever happens, because this same feature is available in our robotics hand, which is spinning in the back there, that the robots will spend more time working and less time in repair. And in this industry, uptime is everything. And not just the industry, but for humans as well. You want to get back to work immediately. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but we focus on both. We want to make sure that everything that we do at the root of it serves humans, but also what are humanoids if not an homage to humans? And so designing for humans instantly means that we're designing for humanoids. And so making hands as good as possible for both at the same time.
Um, can you, I mean, go as far into detail as you like or share as much as information as you like, but you said that some humanoid companies reach out to you. And I do know that a lot of these companies, at least that's what they say, they are aiming for do everything on their own, right? So I think Figure is very proud of that. I think Tesla is very proud of that. Um, so how is it for you? Who are the customers? Can you name any names, or can you name what kind of conversations you guys are having?
I can't, but the conversations are pretty promising. So distribution agreements with some, and then LOIs with some others for like hundreds of hands that could turn into thousands of hands. Um, but yeah, so I guess those are the ones that I can't really name.
And I mean, you were talking about downtime, and yeah, when you're in the industry or manufacturing, there's reliability is a big topic, right? So, how long does a hand really last? And you were talking about price. Back then, you said I think one of the most famous hands back then was the Phantom hand for like 200K. So, well, what
Yep.
kind of price point we're aiming at here?
Yeah, so ours are still one of the world's most affordable hands. Obviously, it's tough to compete with China, but at least US-based hands and European-based hands at about $11,000. So around, for comparison, our competitors' hands effectively start at $20,000 and they go up from there for hands. Ours are $11,000 each, and we also offer a deal where you have the Manus Pro gloves with our partner Manus Meta, or I think they're called Manus Meta, but it's Manus. And they have these gloves that if you put them on, you can teleoperatively control the robotics hand. We're working on implementing that for Genesis as well right now. So people with limb loss can actually do mirror therapy and kind of get rid or treat phantom limb pain that way. Um, but yeah,
And the question about durability. So how long? Because in
right.
no, if you go into automotive, things need to last for a very long period of time and a lot of number of cycles. So how is that for you guys?
Yeah, so it's just going to depend on the amount of use, right? Just like your car could last a very long time if you don't put tons of miles on it. But if you use this thing every day, the cycles could range anywhere from 500,000 to a million. But typically, you're going to see about a year to 3 year lifespan out of these things, depending on the amount of use. But we did design with that in mind, making sure that these motors, we use a very reputable motor manufacturer out of Germany, and they have these guarantees, but also say the same thing. Like you'll get as much use out of it, depending on what your use case actually is. But yeah, about a 1 to 3, and then durability, they're going to go down. But this is the cool part of our modularity is that you can actually order individual fingers. In prosthetics, we include 4 in the package. But in robotics, you have to buy them separately. And for those, if a finger does go down, or when a finger does go down, either end of life damage or just malfunction, then you can swap it in and out immediately. And so that's the downtime, I guess, reduction. Because like for our competitors, you're going to see that the repair process is like, oh, we'll send someone out and repair it, or oh, you need to send the hand back, we'll repair it. Here's your replacement hand in the meantime, and then repeat the process backwards to get the original hand back. But for us, it's effectively like tires. Like this is the best example is tires for cars. These are effectively consumables. They make sure that there's very little downtime between these failures, and you're backing up and doing the core purpose of the robot, or like your vehicle gets you places, and for humanoid robots, gets you working in versatile environments for different environments.
Mm. The you said that it's very easy to repair, and you said that other competitors make it a little bit harder to repair a hand. So would there be an opportunity to uh, like how much is a finger?
We're still figuring out a good price point for it, but it's going to be between 600 and 1,000.
Mm, yeah. What I really like is that you thought about a lot of these things, uh, need and opportunities. Is that something that you uh, came up with first, or is that happening through iterations with customers? Because I'm asking this question because very often, especially as people that are engineers and working very hard on these kind of things, sometimes neglecting the commercial part of it. So how is that for you coming out of university, having this idea of building these kind of hands, and then start building those hands? But how is then the entrepreneurial part, the commercial part? Is that something that you were mentioning the CFO, for example, but how did you get around that? Because you are 5 years old right now, right? So you do have some experience.
Yeah, so if you could clarify a little more, I think I may have missed a couple words if you cut out.
Sorry. The commercial part of being an entrepreneur, um, having conversations with customers and really thinking about a business model, these kind of things. How did you yeah, manage those things? How did you get the experience and knowledge and expertise?
Yeah. So this is my first job out of college, and a lot of people, they have questions on my ability to lead the company. And of course, this ties into that. But I've been through one incubator, one accelerator. We're currently in the Austin Technology Incubator out of UT. And effectively through that and trial by fire, which I think is the best way. It's the hardest way, but the best way. You just throw yourself in front of as many uncomfortable opportunities as you can possibly find, pitching to VCs, pitching to private investors, pitching to angel networks, just pitch after pitch, negotiating, finding out what works, what doesn't. After each raise, look back and say like, dang, I was really like bullied into this like small valuation when I knew my company was valued at much more. And then finding a balance in that in the next round and then looking back on it. So it's just this very iterative process of, like we said previously, doing what needs to be done at every step of the way and then learning from your successes or from your mistakes and then baking that into the decisions that you make in the future. And so, yeah, a lot of it was incubators, accelerators, independent research is great. The advent of the large language models, so like LLMs, like GPT or Gemini or Bard or things like that, that was really helpful because now I could get these like summaries from research articles, or I could ask it to search other companies similar spaces and see what they did and what their path was, and they give me links for it. And now I can go actually read that for myself. But yeah, that's effectively the process, and it's just a lot of failures and then learning from your mistakes and moving on.
Very, very happy that you shared this kind of insights, right? Because admitting that, sure, I do look up things, right? Why should I know everything? And these kind of like incubators or accelerators, there's a lot of value in them, right? Some of them are very good, so I do think that this is great advice. But also doing your own research. And the other question I had was, you were talking about VCs and angels and pitching. So, was that something that you felt comfortable with, or did you know very early on in the beginning, because there's hardware involved and this is very niche, it would be very hard to bootstrap your business?
Um, yeah, I basically started a GoFundMe in the beginning. Like that was my funding source. I got like $3,000 from that. I used what graduation money that I got from my family. I have a very large family. I'm very lucky. But they helped me out, and I think it was like $2,000 or something. So I put $5,000 towards just pure research and development, and that was while I was in my first incubator program. And then from there, they were basically telling you, like, you're gonna need funding. Like, think about it. Like, here, we'll put together your pro forma projections for you and help you understand like what you're gonna be needing. And I remember one day our first investor asked me, like, how much money do you need? And I was like, well, it'd be cool if like I could just have $250 a month for like just to offset rent just a little bit because it's tough to bootstrap on my own. And they were like, no, 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 like for the like you should be paying yourself like at least a livable wage, but also like for the company. And that was the first time I thought like, oh, like I should be thinking of myself too on top of the company. Um, but no, not until that moment did I realize like, yeah, I'm gonna need money for this. And luckily those incubator programs will put you in front of these angel networks or these private investors, and some of them even invested in us because they believed in it. Like that, they don't typically do that, but they saw the mission and they saw kind of my passion for it. And a lot of them, as you'll hear, as you likely have heard from other entrepreneurs, is that the VCs or investors that come in bet on they bet on the jockey, not the horse. And the equivalent or the metaphor is that the horse is the company and the jockey's the one kind of driving that horse or driving the company, so the CEO. So yeah, I did not feel comfortable with it at all. I had no experience public speaking. I was terrified. I still get a little shaky in my first like 2 or 3 minutes in my presentations or speeches. But once you start talking about things that you know, like down to the T, it just becomes this conversation with people. But like I said, just throwing myself into those really uncomfortable situations, trial by fire, it was like, I don't know, I just have this. I want to keep learning. Like I love just absorbing and putting myself in new situations, even if they are uncomfortable, because it makes them more bearable and it helps me understand that like, oh, VCs aren't these like gods in the space. They're just normal people like you and I, and they have more history and experience, and they're going to beat you down a lot. But it's like those are the people you need to meet. You need to kind of befriend, build relationships with, and the ones who are going to eventually fund your company.
Yeah, I think this was very insightful. I mean, like being very transparent about this and showing the vulnerability. Um, like you said, being shaky in front of these people, never being comfortable in front of people speaking and here putting yourself out. Yeah, sharing this, I think, is very valuable for a lot of people who are in the same situation. Um, and are you able to disclose any? I mean, you are now for 5 years, and you're still VC funded.
So we don't have VC funding. We talked to a lot of VCs, and
Oh,
it is all like private angel investment funding. So we're still a privately held company. We've only given a small percentage of the company away, but we've done all that we have done over the last 5 years with less than $2 million, which I do kind of like to brag about because our competitors are working with sometimes 10 times that amount of money, and they just have one product that they're trying to like make better and better. But like I said, maybe this is tooting my own horn, but I've always seen what bionic hands could be. And we've successfully done that with not only one hand, but another hand for robotics, with four more planned on the way, with like force sensing, additional degrees of freedom, different control methods that are going to kind of shake up the industry, we're hoping. And yeah, if we choose to do another raise, it'll likely be for a lot more because I mean, if you look by comparison what we've done with just I think like 1.5 million, then imagine what I could do with, you know,
10
four,
times.
five, 10. Yeah.
Amazing. And especially as you said that it's a small team. It's still a very small team. It seems like you get a lot of things done. Maybe one of the last questions will be around the putting together a team. This is something, especially for, I mean, for some people who are doing projects at the university. There's different kind of projects and in robotics. How is it for you to really find people that would be a good fit into the company, which expertise would complement each other? How is that for you to be in a position where you make this kind of decision and we're looking for the right traits for within a person?
Yeah, it's been hit or miss. More more so hit than miss, but the majority of my misses were like the first, not hires, but like co-founders that we brought on or I brought on. I remember there was an electrical engineer who just didn't have the time, and like we never even got around to signing the like founding agreement, and there was a lot of like beef between us at that time, and so we eventually just had to part ways, and I was like, yeah, this isn't working out. So that was originally our CTO, did the same thing with the CFO, and those both left between the time that I found two mechanical engineers and our CFO and COO. So once I got rolling, it was just a learning process, really. So I knew what I needed on the engineering side, so those were a lot easier, but on the CFO and COO, it was more of, this is where those LLMs really came into play of helping me understand. And like my father owned a business, so he kind of helped. And just contacts that I could ping from like my incubator programs, accelerator programs helped me find the COO. But I found all of them on WellFound, or what it was previously called back then, AngelList. And it's where you go to find co-founders or join a startup and be a co-founder. And the process really was just with both of them asking questions, seeing how well they would respond to someone younger than them, fresh out of college, building a startup company, asking them questions that were very basic questions. Um, but also just learning from my mistakes. Like some people would ask me, like, no, you should be asking me like this, and that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I do that in the next interview. But I interviewed about 46 different mechanical engineers before I couldn't decide on two. Some of those had multiple interviews. But that's how long it effectively took. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 months to kind of sift through all of these applicants, which was cool to see. I mean, so many people wanted to join this because I guess bionic hands are just an interesting project for mechanical engineers. Electricals didn't have that many interviews, or at least people applying for the job. But I couldn't decide on our director of engineering, Jackson, and our CTO, Sam. And so I offered them the position, split the equity down the middle, and they both joined on. Um, but yeah, so essentially engineering was a lot easier. I knew what needed to be done. I asked the questions that needed to be asked, learned from my mistakes in previous interviews, settled on Sam and Jackson, COO, CFO, very driven by incubator programs. But also, yeah, they were just all in for equity only, in the beginning. And it was the greatest thing because nowadays, like trying to find someone for equity and pay is harder than it was to find someone just for equity back in 2020. I don't know the reason for that, but yeah, that was kind of how I went about finding a team. And I can't stress the importance of a team to anyone, the younger audience out there. Like, why do I need to be in a team? Like, I do projects on my own, or like I pick up the slack in my team. It's like I knew what needed to be done, but I knew I didn't have the skill sets to do it. And you may not always be the right person to kind of manage everything. And so don't be afraid to ask for help, and definitely try to find someone who has the same mission as you because you'll get there a lot faster.
This really took an unexpected turn, and maybe you don't mind me asking. So you said that you have like having someone who was only in for equity versus equity and cash, which in your opinion is higher because it shows I'm not here for the money only. I'm here for the mission. I'm here for the long term. Is that because that is risky, right? Because I mean, still today, I don't know the exactly numbers, but I think it's still over 90% of startups fail within the first 3 years or 5 years. So, and it's not because you don't want to, but I mean, necessarily you do need to pay your rent, right? So how does that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. I don't have like the greatest salary, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm really not in this for the money, and I tell my team that like every time we bring up those discussions. But I care more about their salaries than I do mine because I want them to have a good like work-life balance. Like I understand, but also I do have these expectations of like I need you to like live and bleed this the way I do, and you now have this much equity on top of salary. And so it's a negotiation process, but I'm very lucky in that all of the people who work with us do have this like drive. Whether it's, I mean, the majority of it is very philanthropic based of like, I'm actually helping people with engineering, which is the whole reason I went into this. And I'm happy to find other people who do that as well. Um, but yeah, there's just the balance that you have to strike, and your investors will also beat you down over this too. Like they're not going to give you, $500,000 to give yourself $100,000 salary or anything like that. So you have to find you have to find the line and the very delicate balance between like what do you pay yourself and your employees and what all goes to the company to make your or to achieve your milestones. So it's a very layered thing, and it's going to vary from person to person, but that was my experience.
Hmm. This seems to be a very because a lot of these questions are flowing around at the moment for me as well. So this was a very interesting conversation, and I think there was more than just one lesson here. Excuse my voices. Uh, it's interesting how clear you see some things, right? And even though you're not like this is a journey that is 15 years old, and I've been able to reflect on a lot of these things. Some of these things just happened more or less recently, right? Because it's just within 5 years. So one or two other things that you're saying is just 1 or 2 years away. And but it seems like the maturity you have on some of these topics um, seem much more longer than 2 or 3 years. And I think this might be to something that you said earlier, that you're constantly trying to learn new things and apply and iterate. So I think this is something that um, is a very good advice, even though you didn't give this specifically. But um, yeah,
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is actually from a video game called League of Legends. There's a character in there that says, "A true master is an eternal student." And I love that. Even if it's from like a game and there's no other like basis behind it, it's like I truly think there is no limit to the heights that you can achieve so long as you're open to learning from your mistakes and thinking of failure as a step forward rather than like a many step backwards, loss of progression. But yeah, I feel lucky to have that mindset, but I know it's tough. Like failures, people take failures differently, and I think if you can figure out how to turn failures into success or like at least learn from your mistakes, then you can go as far as you want.
I'm very happy that that we found a spot that was suiting both of us. It's a little bit later here, but I think it's still a kind of a much earlier at your place. I'm very happy that you said that even during times you said you were mentioning earlier that there's um, event happening and you guys are being part of it. That you still took time of your schedule and yeah, being here on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, no, this is part of my mission. Like I said, I just want to educate and try to help people and bring awareness to prosthetics because some amputees don't know that these are solutions, and some students are wary of becoming entrepreneurs or like finding an idea and passion and not knowing what to do. And if I can help at all, then I want to. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
I wish you guys good luck, and especially being able not only to serve the humanoid hype, because this is very present, but the first mission that you are serving here, like really helping people, making a difference in their life. Because I think there's a huge difference between someone who's cleaning my apartment, washing my dishes, or folding my clothes, and being able to hold a glass, because this is very casual for me, right? But someone who has lost the hand, it's not very casual. It's hard, and
Yeah,
you bring this back to people, as you said with the story early on. I think it's yeah, it's impressive work.
thank you, Heather. It means a lot.
I say thanks, and looking forward to talk to you in the future. And whenever you have the newest version around, a new launch, because you were mentioning that you have more in plans, reach out to me. I really would like to have a look at it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do.
Then, yeah, for me, it's good night. For you, it's good day. And see you. Bye bye.
See ya. Thank you. Bye.